Welcome back, if you please, the man who owns nighttime talk radio in Denver. It's Jann the Man Scott, with interesting guests from all around America and callers like you on the Front Range. Talk right now with Jann at 935-7100, statewide, long-distance toll-free 1-800-533-0071.
6 minutes after 9 o'clock here in the Mile High City. Jann Scott with you till midnight. 82 degrees in Denver. Boulder, it's also 82. And Colorado Springs, 77 degrees. Another killer night driving into Denver. God, we came down from Boulder, and the sunset was just gorgeous behind us. Another hot, warm, cool, soft evening breeze coming into the city. Didn't you think so? Did you? I mean, and have you looked outside? The sky is clear. The moon sitting up there just a little bit to the south. It was anyway. I love nights like this. So if you haven't gone outside yet, you need to go outside, look up at the stars, and thank God for the terrific nightscape painting. And then come back in and listen to me and turn your television off. Well, of course, you wouldn't be watching TV if you were listening to me anyways, huh? We have quite the evening lined up here this evening. Tom D is going to join us in a little while. He's the guy, actually the country's foremost expert on working the 12 steps. You've heard of the 12-step programs before? He's going to be with us in a little while. Then Michael Lindsay will be back with us, the man who founded the Amend program and helped found the Safe House programs, the country's foremost expert on male violence, young male violence. And then at 10 o'clock, John Bradshaw will be here. He, of course, has the book Bradshaw on the Family, plus the PBS series Bradshaw on the Families. He's coming into town to do a lecture series. He has a private meeting tomorrow night someplace. He's doing a lecture on Thursday and then a workshop series Friday and Saturday. So John Bradshaw will also be with us. And in fact, what we're going to do is have Tom D., Michael Lindsay, and John Bradshaw on all at the same time. These guys, this will be like the meeting at Malta, where Stalin, no, let's blow out Stalin. Churchill, Roosevelt, and if Charles de Gaulle would have been there. I mean, this would be a very important radio meeting. None of these three people know each other, and you just have to take it from me that these are the three most extraordinary people. We're very lucky. Michael Lindsay, as you know, I happened upon early last year, really has a lot to say. A brilliant guy, a no-nonsense kind of person when it comes to domestic violence and women's issues and safety for women. Tom D., also a very no-nonsense person when it comes to alcoholics getting sober. I'm telling you, this guy has come up with a system of working the 12 steps. One study that I did showed a 95% success rate. He's like eons ahead of anybody else. And then, of course, John Bradshaw. So this should be an interesting radio meeting of these three people, and you will get to witness this. This will be, remember the other night I said this is the most important radio program I've done all year? Well, this one actually supersedes that one. This one is the most important radio program. And we'll have open lines here for a little bit. Now, somehow my theme music kind of disappeared into the ethereal sublime. So we have other. What are we gonna? What's our breakaway? Oh, crickets. These are crickets to take you to the break. Turn those crickets up. Listen to this, Tom. This will remind you of home. You have to put those headphones on. Here, kitty. Can you hear? Very nice. I'm Jann Scott. This is KNUS, AM 710, the talk station in Denver. Hi, this is Jann Scott for Rocky Mountain International. You know, International is announcing its new arrivals of cab-over and conventional trucks. They've upgraded the standard issue. They're premium all over. Specifically, the 9400 Black Diamond Eagle. This truck's called the Midnight Eagle. Has a 425 Cat, 13-speed Fuller air suspension, aluminum wheels. It's a twin-screw conventional. You can find it at Rocky Mountain International Trucks, 3280 Brighton Boulevard. Tell them Jan Scott sent you, 293-6991.
Hi, this is Leona from Wheat Recyclery. Join host Jim Turner every Tuesday at 4:55 p.m. for On the Road with Ron Kiefel, when Ron will give us the latest on the professional racing circuit. This feature is brought to you by Wheat Recyclery and AM 710 KNUS.
A recipe for summer cooking success from University Hills Mall. Take one weekly visit to University Hills Mall every Tuesday throughout the summer and fall at 11 a.m. Sprinkle with some of the finest farmers in Colorado and their wonderful locally grown produce. Next, add 34 of Denver's unique specialty retailers at the University Hills Mall, located at 2700 South Colorado Boulevard. And there you have some of the best ingredients for a convenient shopping trip. Remember, the Farmers Market at University Hills Mall every Tuesday throughout the summer and fall from 11 a.m. till sellout. University Hills Mall, 34 unique specialty stores offering you the very best. That's University Hills Mall, located at 2700 South Colorado Boulevard. That's University Hills Mall.
KNUS presents Egghead Computing Solutions Thursdays from 8 to 9 p.m., hosted by Richard Bates and Bob Cordes of Data Magic and Craig Bowie from Egghead Software. Egghead Computing Solutions, sponsored by Egghead Software, Thursdays 8 to 9 on AM 710, the all-new KNUS, and AM 1130, the all-new KHTH Dillon Breckenridge.
Hi, Denver. This is Ken Hamblin, inviting you to tune me in. I'm the guy that's on the radio here on KNUS, KHTH, 7 to 10 a.m., Monday through Friday. You know, I'm the guy that talks about crime and the guy that holds the politician's feet to the fire. I'm the guy that will accept nothing less than safe streets for you and me and our children. I'm the guy that wants to know why our city's failing, why our government's failing. I'm the guy that won't settle for a compromise. If you want to listen to a guy like me who has something to say like that, join me. KNUS, 7 to 10 in the morning.
You never know where to find Jan Scott at night. Sometimes he's in a coffee house or an upscale restaurant. Other times on the street, in a gang neighborhood, or on a Colfax Avenue bus. But wherever he is, you can always find him 9 to midnight weeknights on AM 710 KNUS. You can talk to Jan right now by phoning him at 935-7100 or 1-800-533-0071.
14 minutes past 9 o'clock here in Denver. You know, this is kind of like visiting, coming down here every night at 9:30. I get to hang out with you guys and talk, visit. Whoa! Was I upset last night? Now tonight I'm sort of calmed down. I feel a lot better. That was such a great talk we had. I was thinking about if I had to do that every single night, at that intensity, at that level of energy, I don't know if I could do it. But we'll give it a try. Now, Bill Houston's column again today comes out and says, you remember, this one says, the Diamond Cabaret Steakhouse Celebrity Waiters Luncheon is still on despite some dropouts. Yay! After details for the event were revealed in this column on Friday. Not only that, Bill, we did a little revealing on this radio show. Organizer Leslie Quinn, who was here, incidentally, on Friday night, had talked to several local celebrities asking them to wait tables at the luncheon. Proceeds would go to the Lighthouse, a residential facility for women with addiction problems. Quinn told the Denver high-profilers that the Diamond Steakhouse is adjacent to the Diamond Cabaret Topless Club, but said it was completely separate. She failed to mention, and asked me not to mention, the fact that, get this, that the large picture windows are what separates the two rooms, so that all the nude dancers and waiters can view, all the waiters and diners can view the topless dancers during their meal. This is just the place where we want to send recovering alcoholic and addicted women. Anyways, this one is falling apart. KUSA's Channel 9 Ed Sardella is definitely not taking part. Of course, we reported that. John Bowman with the mayor's office, not going to be there. Jim Beneman and Romelda Muse from Channel 4 were also off the list. Congratulations. That's a good thing to do. Very moral, upright, standing thing to do. It's a bad message to send to women. I've been saying this all along. You can't send. It's like having the wolf throw a benefit for the chickens, where the wolf comes over and says, well, shucks. We've been eating a lot of you chickens, and you know what we're going to do? We're going to throw a benefit for you chickens because so many of you are tore up. And we'll feel so bad for you. We'll just let you come over here to the whole, we'll have a big hen house benefit. The wolf's going to hold them. Just make you nice and healthy, and then we'll eat you up later. Kind of how this one goes. Let's see, who else? Jim Conrad, Channel 2, still on board. Lewis and Floor Wax, they're going to be there. Dave Otto, I mean, typical. You'd understand those guys who are going to show up. And let me see here. Quinn has not talked to Ernie Bjorkman. Well, anyways, here's a message to Leslie Quinn and the people who run the Lighthouse. If you back off of your position and not hold this benefit at the Diamond Cabaret, I will find you a nice, upstanding restaurant, responsible restaurant in Denver where you can hold a celebrity, dinner, perhaps over at Pierre Wolf's place or one of the other nice restaurants, and we'll help you. We'll help you also help you promote this. But I think enough is enough on this. I mean, it's very clear. This is the wrong thing to do. You can't go into an industry that fosters sexual addiction, drug addiction, alcoholism, and throw a benefit for people who are chronically addicted. For women especially. I mean, women are degraded severely as it is. This is a really bad move. And this thing's falling apart, and rightfully so. That's good. Incidentally, what do you think? Am I right on this, or am I right? Or am I wrong? 935-7100. All right? We will follow this story, but it looks like it's about to die here. Although they said they've sold a lot of tickets to this particular benefit, but it's just not right. It's just not right. 935-7100 is the number. Okay, in the same vein, the Nye girl. This is the story of Christine Marie Nye will serve life in prison without parole, plus 16 years for her part in the ritualistic slaying of Douglas Sparr in November. The 21-year-old Leadville mother of two wept softly. Give me a break. This is the woman, the girl who went to Shotgun Willie's to try to get a job with her younger sister. They were 20 at the time. They got turned down. They met Doug Sparr, who spun records there, and they went home and murdered this guy and tortured him. So she gets life. She should get the chair, incidentally, is what I think on this. And see, here's another, it's interesting, here are two stories about two topless clubs. I mean, that's what we'll get Michael Lindsay in here in a little bit, and he can talk about this, but he was talking about the dark shadows of life. And, when you start to hang in the dark shadows of life, it just there's stuff that goes on. And these places breed that. The topless clubs. Because you know what goes along with topless clubs? Drugs, gangsters, violence, and in this case, murder. Here's the topless club disc jockey. Losers. People that are hooked on sex, that are hooked on drugs, that are hooked on alcohol. People that don't care about how they live. So Christine Marie Nye will serve life in prison. What's her sister get? Her 16-year-old sister? I forget how many years. She's getting a lot. What's it say here? And the boy that they were with? Okay, Tracy Renfro, she's getting 70 years in her part in the murder. But, I don't know, man. Yeah, I don't think also, this murder was a satanic and ritualistic murder. I mean, does it tell you something about the industry? Does it tell you something about the topless industry? You want to know why? I'll tell you what these people do. They suck in young girls that are 17 or 18, tell them they're going to make fast money. They get involved in this stuff. They make the money all right, and a lot of it goes right up their nose. They get involved in either emotional or physical prostitution. And nothing's ruled out when you enter into that life. I mean, we're not just talking about alcoholism you know, the guy or woman who goes to work every day and drinks. We're talking about the entire dark side of life. You know, and I only bring it up because it's here. It's in front of us. You know, and I refuse to sweep this stuff under the rug. We need to talk about it. 935-7100. That's okay. We'll talk with Sally in Denver. Hi, Sally. You're on the air.
Hi there. How are you?
Good. Thank you.
Well, you know, I had heard about this benefit at the Topless Club, I think Friday.
Yeah.
And it seemed to me if it was for women, wasn't that, I mean, it was absurd that it's not just the Topless Club. I mean, there are nude dancers there. And I have also been listening to some things and reading some articles that they don't really pay their girls. You know, they take money out for a whole lot of different things. But I cannot imagine any group that is wanting to raise money for women's causes that would have a benefit there. And I'm so glad that all these personalities have dropped out.
Well, are you in recovery yourself?
I have been, yes.
You have been. So then you've been there. I mean, you know a little
I've
bit.
been there with alcohol, yes.
With alcohol, yeah.
But
well,
I don't think that has anything to do with the exploitation of women. I mean, mine was, that is different. But I think there's so many young women who need a job and have to get those kinds of jobs, and you know, the things go through that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I sure do.
And it seems to me that if you are having a fundraiser for women's causes, whatever, whether it's battering or alcohol or drugs or whatever, you don't do it at a stripping club.
A couple things on this, okay? See, the young girls, they meet their friends, okay? It's how you get sucked into prostitution or topless. It's called the sex trade. The mental health workers call women who work on 900 limes, the massage parlors, and the topless bars, they call them all sex workers. And what happens in the sex trade is there's this illusion, you know, come on over, there are a lot of guys, you'll make $300 to $1,000 a night in tips, you can make a lot of money, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's like the car business.
Yeah, may I say something?
Yeah.
That's true. But in so many cases that it's either, and I have no knowledge of this personally, but from what I understand, in so many cases, it's either that or minimum wage at McDonald's. And
well, no, see, but I that's another bad message because, incidentally, if you're 18 or 19 years old, what's wrong with minimum wage at McDonald's? What's wrong with earning some money and going to college? What's wrong with working? Also, okay, I mean, I hear you. I guess I hear the money. I mean, I hear the money. The problem is that they don't get to keep the money because they cannot do the work that they do in good conscience. So it goes into alcohol and it goes into drugs.
But don't you think these girls also, I've got 4 daughters.
They don't know that until they get
are all
hooked
in
into
college
it.
and have good jobs and whatever. I'm just saying, don't you think that the girls that go do this have a whole lot of baggage behind them? You've got John Bradshaw, and I think, you know.
John's coming on tonight, yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, he's wonderful. But they've got this baggage, and they haven't had any...
I tell you something, I have interviewed at least 20 topless dancers in the past 3 years. I have never met one that didn't have stuff going on in their life. Well, actually, if they didn't have it going on before they got into the topless industry, they sure had it going on once they got there. Either boyfriends that beat them up, or a drug problem, or an alcohol problem, or a prostitution problem, or a sexual addiction problem.
Oh, sure, I understand, yeah, and it all goes with it. But what I'm saying, when I first heard of this, I just thought it was awful that somebody, and you were saying it was, I don't know, a lady, Quinn, is that her name?
Yeah, Leslie Quinn is the spokesperson for the Lighthouse. It's
and
just like this was not thought
why
out.
Why would they have this is what bothered me, is why would they even think of, I mean, there are many...
Hey, I'm going to put you on hold here, okay?
Yeah.
We're going to do this. I'm going to put you on hold, Sally. I'm going to come back to you. And Chris, don't you go away. And Conifer, we'll come back to you. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, I'm going to introduce Tom D to all of you and get him in this conversation. I'm Jan Scott. This is KNUS, and this is Jim Morrison, because we're going to talk about the end of the world tonight also.
Hi, this is Leona from Wheatridge Cyclery. Join host Jim Turner every Tuesday at 4:55 p.m. for On the Road with Ron Kiefel, when Ron will give us the latest on the professional racing circuit. This feature is brought to you by Wheatridge Cyclery and AM 710 KNUS.
Ladies and gentlemen, are you sick of working for nothing and having nothing to show for the work that you did for nothing at the end of the week? Well, MTA Truck Driving School will teach you and your wife how to drive 18-wheelers in a few weeks and find you a job that pays you big bucks to boot. Call MTA 295-1115 or 1-800-795-1115. That's MTA Truck Driving School, sponsors of Thursday's 76 Truck Stop Show, and tell them Jan Scott sent you.
KNUS presents Egghead Computing Solutions Thursdays from 8 to 9 p.m., hosted by Richard Bates and Bob Cordes of Data Magic and Craig Bowie from Egghead Software. Egghead Computing Solutions, sponsored by Egghead Software, Thursdays 8 to 9 on AM 710, the all-new KNUS, and AM 1130, the all-new KHTH Dillon Breckenridge.
20 years ago, before anyone knew what Tex-Mex was, the folks at La Bola Restaurant were pioneering a new style of Mexican food that was uniquely Denver. Well, the La Bolas have passed into history, but the folks who created Denver's favorite Mexican restaurants are back, serving the same crowd-pleasing Mexican cuisine at Cafe Rio. Join Phil and Dory 7 nights a week at Cafe Rio, where you'll find many of your old favorites, including their famous fried ice cream and the unforgettable margaritas that once satisfied more than 80,000 thirsts a month. Here, too, you'll rediscover the classic enchiladas, burritos, chimichangas, and chili rellenos that delighted Denver palates for years. Keeping pace with the times, Cafe Rio also offers vegetarian and heart-healthy, low-fat items. So delicious, you'll never guess how good they are for you. There's a Cafe Rio near you at 6830 South University and at 11602 West 64th in Arvada. Open 7 days a week for lunch and dinner. That's Cafe Rio.
Put your phone on automatic redial, because all the lines are full on Jann Scott tonight. 935-7100 in the Denver area, or outside the metro area, toll free at 1-800-533-0071.
Okay, it is almost 9:30. It's 9:29 here in the Mile High City. 82 degrees in Denver. Boulder, it's 82. Colorado Springs, 77 degrees. Tom D joins us. He's come down. He's going to be here for the evening. Tom D is a man who developed a methodology of working the 12 steps, specifically the fourth step, actually the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and ninth, in a way that was incredibly profound. And by that I mean, let me just tell you this, okay? I have worked the 12 steps in a lot of different methods and way. When I did it this way, one of the things, there was a profound change that took place in my life. And when I sponsored around 100 other people that also did it, what I noticed was around 95% of that group stayed clean and sober in the program that they were in. Amazing stuff. This guy has done work that is like I said, is just eons ahead of its time. And we're going to talk more about this 12-step method a little bit later when John Bradshaw is here and when Michael Lindsay shows up. But anyways, Tom, I wanted to welcome you to the microphones here of KNUS.
Thanks, Jan.
Well, so anyway, and we're going to go back and talk with Sally here too. You've been listening to this, the Topless Bar having a fundraiser for for the Women's Alcohol and Drug Treatment Center. What was your take on that?
Well, one of the things I noticed that you and Sally were talking about is that everybody, by the time they're 18 or 19 years old, has baggage.
Mm-hmm.
And that it is pointing them in a particular direction, and that we're more or less stuck with that.
Yeah. Let's go back and talk with Sally. Hi, Sally.
Hi there.
So go ahead. You guys have to put your headphones on. You can hear what's happening.
Okay. No, the one thing I wanted to say is that I think I have been through a 12-step program, but I don't want to say I'm a feminist. I don't want to say I'm that liberal, but I am interested in women's issues. And I think if I was working with women that had problems, and I wanted to have a fundraiser, I would not go to a nude dancing club to do that. I mean, you've got a Pierre Wolf. You've got a Noel Cunningham with strings in his
Hell,
restaurant.
you got KNUS. All they have to
go
do is
out of
call
their
me
way.
and ask them. We'll raise the money.
That's
the hell
right,
do you need
and-
to go back into the wolf's den for that crap? I
And
can't believe it.
That's what I was calling about.
Huh?
Is I think that anybody worth their salt working with women, I don't care whether they're battered women or homeless women or women with addiction problems. You know, if you go for a fundraiser, you don't go to the dance.
Sally, as a recovering woman yourself, what kind of message does that send to other young recovering women that are coming into the, programs?
Look, what does it send to the people? What message does it send to the people that are giving the money for this program? That's where
Yeah, I know.
I think that's the worst
Yeah,
part
I
of
know.
it. And I am
I
so
know.
glad that most of these celebrities have opted out, and I think this Ms. Quinn should be.
Well, she
out
doesn't
of
know
her
any
job.
better. She doesn't know any better. She's a volunteer, and she's stuck. And see, she can't see beyond it. That's one of the problems. People get sober, and they think, well, now I'm sober, I'm going to do what the hell I please. And meanwhile, what we please sometimes is urinating all over the planet without forethought to what it might do to other people.
Well, has she been through a 12-step program?
Yeah, 3.5 years clean and sober. And
Well,
all these
you know,
people
and
are
that's
that
good
run this
for
place.
her,
I'm
but-
like, what the hell's going on in their heads?
Why would she do that? I mean, I just think that is ludicrous. I think it's
They are brain dead.
unforgivable.
There's some kind of the brain has malfunctioned at the junction. I
Well,
promise.
I guess the brain didn't make it through
She
the
did
program.
not do a fourth step.
And that was mainly
It has
what
to do with. It's called integrity. You have to learn about that sooner or later.
Actually, I didn't.
It would
think
be
that
like
word.
me. Hey, Sally, it would be like me, Jann Scott, the drug fighter, the gang fighter, taking money from the Crips and Bloods or the drug cartels. It would be like me taking money from Adolf Hitler Coors Company.
I don't know. I just, to me, this was the. You know what I think it was? I think it was stupid.
Yeah,
You know,
that's it. Stupid is good.
And I love it the way that Julia Sugarbaker used to say it on Designing Women. Stupid.
All right, thank you.
I thought it was wonderful. Okay.
Thanks for calling.
Thank you. Bye.
935-7100. Actually, now another person who's just come to the microphone, and we'll introduce him. Michael Lindsay is back with us again. Michael Lindsay is the person who helped found the Amend program, which is a violent offenders treatment program. He also helped start the women's sheltering system across the United States. Michael,
Greetings. How are you doing, Jen?
doing great. Thanks. Nice of you to come here.
Well, I'm glad to be here as always.
Yeah.
My voice is a little ragged. I just finished running a group. It was pretty interesting. So,
What kind of group did you just run?
violent men. Same thing I do every night practically. Is talk to violent men.
Mm-hmm. Really? And were you like having to yell and scream to be heard, or?
No, it's just you have to talk a lot because.
Oh, they don't talk a lot.
They don't exactly jump forth sometimes. So it's a lot of education.
Let's go to. We'll go back now and talk with. Incidentally, what is your take on this topless bar holding a benefit for a women's alcohol and drug rehab center? Good idea?
No, it's a bad idea. Basically, those organizations, I have such mixed feelings about the whole thing because I believe women have a right to do what they want to do with their own body. I mean, I really believe that down to my toes. But so on the one hand, the women are entitled to do what they do. But on the other hand, it's really abusive. It's really an abusive place. Everybody in there is being abused. So, I mean, it's just another addiction. They're using one addiction to fund another addiction in the second place. So it's a dumb deal.
Yeah, not too smart.
Not too smart.
And it also sends a message to women that that you have low self-esteem. You're stupid anyways, and the only way that you're ever going to be able to make money is screw for the money.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that the message that's sent? Use your body.
Use your body.
Yeah.
Use your body.
Don't use your head.
Well,
Okay.
It's a way to have power in a world where you don't have power, I suppose, but it's pretty destructive.
Okay, Kristen Conifer, we're going to get to you in just a minute, and we'll be back with Tom D. and Michael Lindsay. I'm Jann Scott, and this is AM 710, the all-new KNUS.
Use your God-given intelligence. Hear about ways to do this on the Christian Science Sentinel radio program this Sunday, 7:30 in the morning on AM 710, the all-new KNUS.
Join KNUS every Wednesday afternoon at 4:55 when the Denver Spoke proudly presents a weekly cycling feature, Cycling in Colorado, with special host David Nelson. Denver Spoke, great gear, great prices, great service. Denver Spoke, 1715 East Evans, 6 blocks east of DU.
You should have your brakes and alignment checked on your off-road four-wheel drive vehicle once a year. This is Jan Scott for Off-Road LTD, sponsors of the motor racing segment on a Sunday night talk. Off-Road LTD, Colorado's largest 4x4 and VW toy store. 15 years experience building or repairing any part of your four-wheel drive. Off-Road LTD at Chambers and 6th or call 367-9666. Off-Road LTD has the best four-wheel drive service department in Denver.
You know the Apple Macintosh. It's helped your kids in school. It's helped put your business on the map and your house in order. You may not know Macintosh for
hot, steaming, money-saving deals.
If hot, steaming, money-saving deals intrigue you, then listen as our loud announcer introduces
on-the-spot rebates.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is so great.
Here's an opportunity to save
big-time cash money bucks
on qualifying Apple Macintosh computers, the PowerBook, even peripherals. For instance, buy a Centris 610 with a built-in CD-ROM drive and you'll save
$300.
And if you're thinking personal LaserWrite or NTR, you'll save
$200.
Now, you needn't be a logician to deduce
the more you buy, the more you save.
But Apple's generous rebates are available only for a limited time, only while supplies last, and only at your participating authorized Apple reseller.
So what are we waiting for?
What indeed?
Come on, everybody, let's go.
A bit much, isn't it?
Nonsense. Miami Macintosh lovers, come!
Denver's only drive-by talk show host. It's Late Night with Jan Scott on KNUS. So shoot your mouth off with Jan at 935-7100, or from outside the metro area, it's 1-800-533-0071. And now back to Jan Scott Tonight.
Back here at 29, it is 9:39 here in the Mile High City. We're just having frivolous conversation. Tom D is with us. He's the man who developed the technological approach to the 12 step, especially 4 through 9, knows more about the 12 steps and came up with a more successful way to work the 12 steps than anyone in the country. I mean, I tell you, the guy knows his stuff, and his work should be distributed all across the United States. Plus, Michael Lindsay is here with us. He's the country's foremost expert on male violence. 935-7100. Let's go back to the telephones with Chris and Conifer. Hi, you're on with Tom and Michael and Jan.
Hi, Jan.
Go, Chris.
Hey, couple of side issues before I get to the point. People that might be interesting, because I'm really impressed with who you've got in this radio program.
What do you mean, the men that are in here tonight?
Yeah,
yep.
Yeah, and just the general.
Are you in recovery yourself, Chris?
Say again?
Are you in recovery yourself?
No.
Okay.
But just the general quality of the people and the timber of this program over the past several, I guess, weeks.
Yeah. Well, you know why that is.
It's really neat.
Thank
care,
you very much.
That's good. And a couple of people you might want to have on. Stephen Covey. You're familiar with him, I'm sure.
Stephen Covey?
Yeah, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Impressive guy. Check the book out.
Yeah, this is Michael Lindsay. That's a really good recommendation. That's an excellent book.
Yeah, it's neat stuff. And also...
Hang on for a second. Okay, Stephen Covey and 7 Habits. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Write me a letter about this, will you?
Okay, fine.
Just write me a letter. Say, Jan, have these guests on. Write me a letter. In fact, any of you, if you have recommendations of hot people that I should have on, write to me here at 5800 West Alameda, Denver 80... What is it, Lane? 80226. Thank you. And you know, I'm looking for hot people, but go ahead.
You're getting the right people. You really are.
Mm-hmm.
And another guy who's interesting, another radio program host, Roy Masters, has an organization called the Foundation of Human Understanding, and he speaks very, very cogently on sex addiction and the problem between the sexes. And if you ever get tuning around on the dial late at night, I think it's roughly from 11 to 12 on WOAI out of San Antonio. He's got a program.
Oh, really? Now, who is this now?
Roy Masters.
Mm-hmm.
He's been doing this for, gosh, more than a decade, couple of decades.
Well, I know that. I used to listen to Patrick Carnes on that 50,000 watt station up in Minneapolis, but he's not doing it anymore.
Right.
And incidentally, I am familiar with Rich Salman, who founded the National Association of Sexual Addiction Problems, and he's been my source. We've had him on a bunch of times, and God, I mean, he really knows about these topless joints and the whole pornography industry. And in fact, I've had people on from Sex Addicts Anonymous and Sexaholics Anonymous and class level 1, 2, and 3 sex offenders, both male and female, plus SLA people, and I mean, they'll tell it like it is, and they tell about they talk about, you know, the pornography business, and it's not what they show you when you walk in. These places are not show clubs.
It's a room full of mirrors. Seriously, call down to WOEI in San Antonio. It's a 50,000 watt station. I'll write you a letter and I'll give you some more information.
Yeah, do that.
This guy Roy Masters really has some interesting things to say about sex and the the duplicitous bond that forms between the sexes, because the act itself is almost less important than the power that's transferred. And it's interesting stuff. I'll leave it as a tease, but I wanted to talk about something else that you had mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm. What's that?
And that is to offer you maybe an expanded perspective on the Doug Sparr killing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you were aware of the sort of the citizens band radio underworld or underculture and the addiction that's involved in that.
I owned a trucking company. I was a truck driver for 7 years. I know about CB.
Did you know?
Yeah.
Did you know that Doug Sparr was a recovering alcoholic?
That he was a recovering alcoholic?
Yes.
No, but so.
Very definitely. He was in AA. He was in the basic 12-step program. He had reduced his alcohol consumption. In fact, eliminated it. He was still hooked on cigarettes, and his substitute was Mountain Dew, which he drank profusely. One of the interesting things is that his continued association with that netherworld, the shadow world, led him to meet these girls.
That's right.
And he worked, of course, in this club, as you're well aware. But any night, you can turn on the CB radio, and on channels either 34, 29, or 19, you can hear the gang activity. You can hear the addictive behavior. You can hear
it's channel 34.
34 or 29 or 19, which is, of course, the truckers' channel.
Yeah.
And what you can hear is sort of America backyard. It's the things that you wouldn't yell over your fence to your neighbor if you saw them face to face. But you darn well do it over the radio if you were anonymous and no one could track you.
Thanks for your call, Chris.
Okay.
We're going to roll along. We got filled lines here. Tom or Michael, just jump right in and go ahead, Michael. You got something you were about to say.
You start talking about the shadow world, and you begin to wonder. I was looking at Tom's book here, and I think it's a great book, and it addresses kind of a spiritual rebirth that I think...
you have to turn Michael's mic up there, Lane.
That I think this country... Hey, how's that? Can you hear me out there now? I think that a spiritual rebirth is going to be essential, and that doesn't necessarily mean any kind of crazy religious fanaticism, just something that has to be generated so that people have something to hang on to besides stimulation.
Where am I going now? Line 1? Eddie? Eddie in Denver, you're on the air, Eddie.
Jann, how are you doing?
Pretty good, sir. You're on with Tom D. and Michael Lindsay also.
I want to take this opportunity to let you know that on the basis of a program that you had last week, the Neighborhood Congress, that's a coalition of West Denver groups.
Yes.
We have set up a town meeting with Police District 1 and the gang unit detail.
Oh, cool.
We are definitely taking the steps, the initiative upon ourselves to work out some of these gang problems to win back some of our communities. And if I may, I'd like to make mention of the meeting when it's going to be held and all that.
Sure thing.
August the 26th, which is this coming Thursday, 7 p.m. at the VFW at 4747 West Colfax Avenue.
Okay, August 26th, 7 p.m. Okay, where now?
4747 West Colfax Avenue. That's the VFW hall. And we're having Officer Carpenter from the Community Resource Bureau from District 1 and the gang unit detail to discuss what we can do to empower the neighbors to keep control of our community against the gangbangers. We've been successful over the past couple of years, but we have to keep on top of it.
You know, Eddie, I want to ask you, you said as a result of a program that I did a week or so ago, which program was that and what happened?
We have the Johnsons on.
Okay, Carl and Jan Johnson, who organized the Whittier neighborhood.
Yes.
Yeah, and so what, were you listening to that? And are you?
I called in, remember?
That's right, okay.
And you told me you'd give me a call. I haven't heard from you.
Oh, yeah, you know, and I lost your phone number. Will you give it to, I'm sorry about that. Usually I call everybody that if I have your phone numbers and I make a note to call you, but I'll put down here, call Eddie.
Neighborhood Congress.
Neighborhood Congress.
Yep.
That's the name of your neighborhood.
Well, it's West Colfax, Neighborhood Congress of West Colfax, but since it's a coalition of neighborhood groups collectively.
What's it like over there?
Pardon me?
What's it like over there with the gangs and violence and all that stuff?
What we had was a situation 2 years ago where a lot of these gangbangers were moving into some of the rentals along Wall Street, and we have a high number of Jewish people, and they're Orthodox, and they were harassing the Jewish people, breaking into their homes. So we had a meeting 2 years ago with then Carpenter County captain, and we invoked the public nuisance ordinance to get them out of the community.
Good for you.
On 2 occasions, 2 different occasions, and we're very serious about this. Yeah.
What's the gang over in your neighborhood?
14th Avenue Vatos.
Oh, okay, so these are part of the North Side Mafia then.
Right, but they're no longer in the community. At that time they were here, but you know, we're fortunate.
These are the Hispanic gangs.
Yes, and some of them were Mexican nationals. Most of them were Mexican nationals.
Well, Eddie, I'm really glad you're doing this.
Well, you know, Jann, I really take my hat off to you for all that you're doing, and more people involved in talk radio should put their money where their mouth is instead of just complaining about the problem. Offer solutions, offer different avenues that people could work with the system and their neighbors, which is the important key right there, to win back their communities. We get what we deserve. If we just sit back on our duffs and not do anything, these people are going to take over our communities.
Eddie, one thing out there that I would like to point out there to you and everybody who's listening is if we're going to stop violence, gang violence, domestic violence, rape, any kind of violence you want to name, people tend to get real polarized. It turns out that you need a 3-pronged attack.
Okay.
You need a criminal justice system response. You need a social response, which you're beginning to organize for your community. And you need a treatment response. And the trick is to figure out who goes where. The hardcore gangbangers, they just need to go to jail.
You know, through that social aspect of it that you mentioned, the more empowerment the people get, they could demand that the judicial system be more responsive. And the rehabilitation funds are made available for that. Empowerment comes from the people to attack those 2 other approaches also.
That's correct, but if you look at the governor's response and other people's response, people get real polarized and they begin to think that the police in and of themselves are going to solve this. The police in and of themselves are not going to solve this. They can handle one aspect of the problem.
Now the chief came out and he's concerned about vigilantism, and I've been talking about not armed vigilantism, which is really stupid. I've been talking about people holding a vigil in the truest sense of the word, that is looking over your neighborhood, getting to know your neighbors, coming out of the houses, going onto the street, reclaiming your neighborhood, turning the television off and going out in large groups of people and talking to the kids that are out there. And I agree with what Michael said. It's true. The really bad, hardcore kids, they need to be taken off the street and put in prison, before they kill somebody else. But there are a lot of kids that can be saved out there, that can be reached.
Well, I agree with you, and oftentimes it's a situation where they just need a little reinforcement of their, self-esteem.
Eddie, I want you to know one thing, okay, for your group. I'm behind you 100%. The microphone's always open here. I'm always here 9 to midnight. I'm willing to talk with you and share with you. Other people are too. And in fact, we're going to put you on hold again, and this time I'll get your phone number from Lane, and let's have you and your group on after you have your town meeting, okay? I want you to come down to the studio and let's talk, okay?
Okay, it sounds good.
Yeah, but you need to know that I'm here. This is, this is like a mission for me, right?
And we're supporting you, Jann.
Okay, good talking to you. All right, we come back. We're going to talk a little bit with Tom Duffy, get his input on this, and then Pauline and Littleton, you're up next, and then John Bradshaw will be on with us at 10 o'clock. All of us. Say all of us together. Here's Jim Morrison. He died of drugs.
KNUS presents Egghead Computing Solutions Thursdays from 8 to 9 p.m., hosted by Richard Bates and Bob Cordes of Data Magic and Craig Bowie from Egghead Software. Egghead Computing Solutions, sponsored by Egghead Software, Thursdays 8 to 9 on AM 710, the all-new KNUS, and AM 1130, the all-new KHTH Dillon Breckenridge.
Hi, this is Leona from Wheatridge Cyclery. Join host Jim Turner every Tuesday at 4:55 p.m. for On the Road with Ron Kiefel, when Ron will give us the latest on the professional racing circuit. This feature is brought to you by Wheatridge. Breezy, a low of 60 to 65. Tomorrow, partly cloudy, just a slight chance for some late-day thunderstorms, a high in the upper 80s. In Summit County tonight, mostly clear, a few showers possible, a low in the upper 30s. Then for tomorrow, increasing clouds and windy with isolated afternoon thunderstorms, a high in the 70s. From the KNUS News Center in Lakewood, I'm Kieran Kennedy.
He reads 500 books per year, 5 newspapers a day, 20 magazines a month, including Interview, Time, Buzzworm, and Rolling Stone. Has an IQ, allegedly, of 147, plays street basketball, drives a 93 fuel-injected hot rod Lincoln that goes 150 miles an hour, runs 10Ks in 1 hour 30 minutes, eats tofu and cheeseburgers, plus women everywhere throw themselves at his feet. It's the 47-year-old short, bald guy of late-night radio, Jann Scott, tonight here on KNUS. Talk to Jann now, 935-7100, or long-distance toll-free 1-800-533-0071. And now, ladies and gentlemen, back to Mr. Wonderful.
It is 6 minutes after 10 o'clock here in the Mile High City. 82 degrees in Denver, 82 in Boulder, 77 in Colorado Springs. Hasn't changed a whole lot. Let's do this. Now, incidentally, Shelley and Aurora, hang on right where you are, Pauline too. We're going to get to you in just a little bit. What I want to do now is I want to bring into the conversation John Bradshaw, who's joining us from Houston, Texas. John is, of course, the author of the book Bradshaw on the Family, has a PBS series called Bradshaw on the Family, which plays here on Channel 12 and Channel 6 occasionally. You've probably seen it. He's going to be in town tomorrow night and Thursday doing a lecture, we think at the Regency, and then he's doing a workshop series Friday and Saturday, and I will have some pairs of tickets for the Thursday night show that we will be giving away to some of you as we go along in the program. So, and John's been on hold here kind of listening to Tom and Michael Lindsay and I talk for a while. So, John, welcome to Denver and welcome to KNUS tonight, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. Now, what I want to do, Tom D. is here. He, as I've been saying, is one of the country's foremost experts on the 12 steps. Michael Lindsay on violence, and certainly John Bradshaw on the family. And for those of you listening, I thought what we do is do this. And I'll start with you, Tom, and maybe give an overview of how you came to develop this this 12-step process, the 4th step process, the technological approach that is so phenomenal. Incidentally, Tom D. does workshops around the country. He's been all over the world teaching people this method. I have personally witnessed it and seen the phenomenal results. And he's from New Mexico, and you're up here in Denver doing some stuff this week in Boulder and Denver, right? You have to talk real close to the mic. How did you just tell everybody how you came up with this, or why you came up with this system?
Well, really, the reason that I became involved in the 12 steps myself, and after about 4 years in a 12-step program, I began to have a lot of difficulty in my own life, and I thought that I could simply just change something about myself. And I'd never really looked at the fact that I had constructed a personality for myself that I really didn't hold the sway over that I thought I had. So I came into life with a particular point of view, and when I tried to change it, I found out that it had me.
So this system Do we need to do? Let's take this first break, Lane, and then let's do that now, and we'll get it out of the way, and then we'll come back and we'll let Tom D finish and just get us up to how he came up with this this phenomenal system of working the 4th through 9th step. And so we have 3 major hitters on the show tonight, folks. I want you to know that. Tom D, Michael Lindsay, and John Bradshaw, all of them just phenomenal in their various fields, which as I term them 12 steps, male violence, and family stuff. We'll continue on AM 710 KNUS, the talk station here in Denver.
My sister had a... So I decided to... down for a visit. I forgot my... back home, so I stopped at a... booth to call my neighbor. Of course, I had no change. Now what am I gonna do? I said. The... across the road was no help.
Whether you're using your AT&T card or calling collect, nobody offers more experienced operators than AT&T. From most public phones, it's as easy as dialing 0 in the number, but some phones are automatically connected to operator service companies you've never heard of that charge 2 to 3 times more than AT&T. So check the phone before you dial. If you don't hear
AT&T,
hang up and dial 10ATT0, the area code and number. An easy way to make sure you get
AT&T. The AT&T operator got me through in a... My neighbor wasn't home. Her teenage son was, who said...
Cool. I'll watch you.
I wonder why he was being so helpful.
Party! Party! Simple access to AT&T, all part of the I-Plan.
The 12-Step Times is a journal of personal recovery and growth. It's, in fact, the new one's coming out at the end of this week. It went to the press just today. It's out every 5 weeks. It's a newspaper really about the recovery movement here in Denver and along the Front Range. The 12-Step Times features articles on recovery, personal growth, etc. Listen, you can pick it up at any of the coffee shops around town, around the Front Range, or any of the newsstands, and it's free, it's available, it's all over. It's 12-Step Times.
Come on to the Colorado State Fair. Bunch of food and watch the people there.
See rockin' bands and real-life rodeo. There's nothing like it.
Win a prize when you pitch a ball. Scream on rides at the carnival.
Catch a show in the original Coors Grandstand.
That's where the stars are.
Come to the fair and feel your spirits soar. 'Cause it's bigger and better than it was before. The one and only Colorado State Fair.
Moms, wives, girlfriends, and women everywhere. You've been meaning to call in, but the time just hasn't been right. Well, the time's right now. Now you can talk with Jann Scott on Open Lines at 935-7100 or out of state 1-800-935-0071. And now back to Jann Scott on KNUS.
Tom D is here in studio with us. He developed a system of working the 12 steps called the technological approach to the 4th step, which really took Colorado by storm, and now the rest of the country and some other places in the country. John Bradshaw is with us by telephone. Michael Lindsay, expert in male violence, is also with us. So Tom, you were going to meetings. You noticed people were dropping like flies. They didn't hang out for a while, and people were dying around you after 10 years of recovery or so. Is that right? You have to get real close to that mic too.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's not really any way of dealing with the person that we show up in a 12-step program or even show up into life with. Schools don't train us how to be human. They don't talk about that. Society doesn't train us how to be human, how to...
But how did you develop this system? I mean, there's a 4th step in the AA Big Book, and then there's this system that you came up with. What the heck is the difference between the two? How could one be so phenomenal and the other just sort of be eh?
The difference between the two is it's one thing to sit down and write down that you're mad at your boss because your boss threatens to fire you. But if what you're looking for is a real shift in your life, you know, there's a lot of courses and things you can go out there and take, and you can kind of polish yourself up. But in the end, it really doesn't make any difference, because if you want to recover from anything, whether it's violence or addiction, You have to be somebody else. And there's only one somebody else that you can possibly be, and that's who you really are. So my assertion is that when you were born with a set of ideals inscribed in your own heart, not somebody else's rules, your ideals, and that if you live your life consistent with those ideals, your life will be full and you'll be happy. Part of the problem is that for most of us, and this is where I found myself, I had no idea what they were. I was talking with Michael before, and he said, well, you know, how did you get started in this thing? And I got started in this thing because I was beating up people. I was beating up people, and I couldn't stop beating up people. But I had constructed for myself a personality that I thought I needed to have when I was 12 years old, or even earlier than that. You know, but this violent part of my personality just came from somebody beating me up, and I made up my mind that no one was ever going to do that again.
How does this transform into these fourth step workshops and these fourth step support groups that you developed around the country, and the fact that they've been going on for 10 years and they keep growing,
12.
And people are 12 years, and that they're getting well at a phenomenal rate? I mean, how did you get to that? And how did a guy like you end up developing this system of a fourth step that just blew all the others out of the water?
I realized in my own life that I was incapable of being this other person. But I had some motivation. I had a judge tell me that I wasn't fit to be on the streets with decent people, and that he was not impressed with my program at all. And he was going to see to it that if I wanted to attend meetings, I could attend them in Canyon City Penitentiary.
You were sober at this time.
Yeah, I was impressed with my program. He wasn't. But here was a guy who could do something about me, and I couldn't do anything about me.
You develop these workshops in such a way, and you train facilitators to teach people how to do these fourth steps, fifth and sixth and seventh steps in such a way that they actually do have this transformational experience in their life. It isn't just something, they don't get to do it their way, they get to do it the way that's actually the way it's written.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's not the only way.
No, it's not.
Obviously.
Okay. We're going to come back to Tom D here in a second. Let me also now introduce Michael Lindsay, who helped start. Certainly, you were constructive in a major part. What people tell me, Michael, is that you were a major influence on the Amends program, which is a treatment program for batterers, and a major influence on the safe shelter system for women here in the United States. And I call him, incidentally, and I've interviewed hundreds of people, thousands of people, therapists, etc., etc. This guy, as far as I'm concerned, is the country's #1 foremost expert on young male violence. He understands it in a way that no one else does. Go ahead.
Thank you very much for that, Jan. I really hope I can be all of that. How did I get started in this process? Well, you know, I'll tell you, violence has been a part of my life since I've been a very, very, in fact, before I was even born, if you can believe that, because my grandfather was murdered. My grandfather's father was murdered in a holdup and orphaned. I was raised in a violent household. I ended up doing a tour in Vietnam. I was in gangs when I was young, although they didn't call them gangs. We were just groups of thugs hanging out with guns and knives and chains. And I was talking with Tom, and we were discussing this process, and you know, I really was a fairly gentle kid early on, but I had been beaten and actually ended up being raped on one occasion by an older boy. And I had just gotten to the point where I wasn't going to allow that to happen. I was not going to be abused anymore, and I became very violent. And when I became very violent, nobody victimized me anymore, and it was a very powerful place to live. Then I went to Vietnam, and I came home and spent 10 years unable to hold jobs or do anything really significant, and I kept looking and kept looking and kept looking. I felt like there had to be something. Tried all kinds of different therapies, finally got myself together, and I met women. I met women in the safe shelter system, and here were a group of people, these women, some of whom were pretty radical from where I came from, who actually believed in something. I mean, who actually had a purpose and a reason to live on this planet. And I just shut my mouth, and I spent a half a decade listening to women, and I began to realize there was a whole other view of life on this planet. And then I spun that into some of my own experience and some of my own understanding, and I spent the last 14 years working with men and listening to men about their lives and the misery of their existence. And I put that into a tiered program that starts out with stabilization, because you can't get anywhere until you get stable, and evolves down the line of spirituality, where I see Tom's work as, I see him as a very advanced person who's doing a lot of real awareness work around spirituality. I see myself as down in the trenches with people who are really just struggling not to kill somebody and to stay alive. It's a pretty interesting contrast.
You also run something called The Third Path?
The Third Path, which says the fundamental principles, there's chaos, there's death, and there's change. You can take your pick.
You work with male offenders.
You bet. Very violent male offenders. That's who I work with.
And you also have some very strong opinions on the court systems and what we need to do with male offenders that we're not doing, and we'll talk about that too. Also, I want to tell you, Tom D has a book out. It's called The Step Group Method. It's one of the books that he has out, An Experience of Awareness and Inspiration, Living with Honor and Integrity. This is the newest of his book. He has another one called is a Fourth Step Manual. Okay, so Lane, let's take the break that we need to take now, and then when we come back, let me introduce John Bradshaw, and he can talk to you a little bit about what his current work is, working with families and dysfunctional families and alcoholic families. I'm Jan Scott. This is KNUS, the talk station here in Denver.
Comes out of the Virginia swamps.
Johnson United Storage and Moving are agents for United Van Lines. You know, they've been moving treasures for 93 years. Your treasures, such as your office treasures. If you're planning an office move or a home move this fall, call Johnson United at 778-6683. Johnson Storage and Moving, agents for United Van Lines, is a long-time Denver moving company who will move your company with care. Johnson United, they're sponsors of Thursday's 76 Truck Stop Show. Tell them Jan Scott sent you.
KNUS presents Egghead Computing Solutions Thursdays from 8 to 9 p.m., hosted by Richard Bates and Bob Cordes of Data Magic and Craig Bowie from Egghead Software. Egghead Computing Solutions, sponsored by Egghead Software, Thursdays 8 to 9 on AM 710, the all-new KNUS, and AM 1130, the all-new KHTH Dillon Breckenridge.
Hi, Denver. This is Ken Hamblin, inviting you to tune me in. I'm the guy that's on the radio here on KNUS, KHTH, 7 to 10 a.m., Monday through Friday. You know, I'm the guy that talks about crime and the guy that holds the politicians' feet to the fire. I'm the guy that will accept nothing less than safe streets for you and me and our children. I'm the guy that wants to know why our city's failing, why our government's failing. I'm the guy that won't settle for a compromise. If you want to listen to a guy like me who has something to say like that, join me. KNUS, 7 to 10 in the morning.
How do you like tonight's show? Write your best, funniest, most outrageous, praising, or insulting letter on tonight's show and win a dinner for two if Jan reads your letter on the air. Write as many and as often as you like to Letters to Jan, KNUS Radio, 5800 West Alameda, Lakewood, Colorado 80226. And now we return to tonight's Late Night Talkmaster. It's Jan Scott at 935-7100 or 1-800-533-0071.
Okay, it is 24 minutes after 10 o'clock here in the Mile High City. Still 82, is that right? 82 degrees in Denver, 82 in Boulder. Let's try for them. It's got to be in the 80s. With us in studio, Tom D., who developed the technological approach to working the fourth step. Michael Lindsay, the country's foremost expert on male violence, and joining us from Houston by telephone is John Bradshaw, who's going to be here in town. He's going to be at the Regency Thursday night. Someone just called in and gave us all this information, John, because I told you that the sheet that I got in the mail, I stuck up on a meeting hall bulletin board because I wanted some people to attend your workshop this weekend.
Right.
Well, anyways, so yeah, you've had a chance to listen a little bit to Tom and to Michael. What's most of your work is still with families? Is that right or not?
Well, yeah, I have a hospital unit in California where we do primarily what I call original pain work, which is delayed grief work, and it probably would connect with both what Michael and Tom are talking about, that people early on get violated in terrible ways in violent families, but also in families that consider themselves to be good families, just normal, what I would call normal patriarchal families. I see that very early on in families, people generally come to believe that they're most lovable when they're not being themselves. That is, that most of us have grown up in systems where there's been prohibitions against feelings, especially the feeling of anger and sadness, so that you're not allowed to have anger at all, and you're only minimally allowed to have sadness. And a lot of the work that I've done is to try to make some of the current work available on feelings, that we've really, probably in the last 50 years, we've become aware of feelings in a way that we never have before, and that emotions are energy, they're forms of energy, and when they're not expressed and they're not resolved, then they go somewhere, they go into your body, and they get acted out by, the anger gets acted out on somebody else, or it gets acted in on ourselves. Also, the idea of families as social systems, that families are systems, and that there are very clear ways that systems handle anxiety and stress. All families, when there's anxiety and stress, fight or distance. Someone will overfunction, someone will underfunction, someone will be scapegoated, that is, will be identified as the problem. And generally, if a family's reasonably functional, it can work out of that and get where the anxiety's coming from. It may be the economy, or it may be that grandmother died and nobody's dealing with it, or that dad's an alcoholic and nobody's dealing with it. But in dysfunctional families, families that don't ever get out in the open what the anxiety is, then those patterns of fighting or distancing, and the fighting can be anything from verbal fighting to violence to physical beatings. Those systems stay in focus, and the husband will make the wife the problem, or the wife will make the husband a problem, or one of the kids will be the problem. But in any case, we really need to understand this material because the old language that comes out of the patriarchal past just doesn't work anymore for the problems that we have in a society that's, been affected by technology and is ever more increasingly free and democratic. I mean, that's a big factor in our society.
Let me ask you, how did you come to, you've certainly popularized family systems work and combined with, dysfunctional families or alcoholic families. What was it that made you go from, a recovering alcoholic to really getting involved in the community at large? At the level that you are, in the same way that Tom and Michael are also. What's your story, Buzz, kind of in a nutshell?
Well, I've always been a teacher. I was a high school teacher and a university teacher, and I do what teachers do, which is to synthesize material and present it in a way that people can understand it. And that's all I did in 1984, is I took that family system stuff, which made so much sense for my family. I'd, for so many years, not been able to understand why my brother and sister and I were so different coming out of the same family. I subsequently got that they were both lost kids and I was the hero child, and that we all had the same pain, but I just adapted differently than they did. And that's what family systems can help you to understand, is the dynamics of how the system tries to stabilize itself. So I was a kid that loved family, and family was very painful to me when my mother and daddy divorced, and it was very painful, the loss of my family. So I've always been interested in that. And then when I sobered up, I'm a 28-year recovering alcoholic. When I sobered up, I started talking about this stuff around town, and people just wanted to hear me talk more. So I suddenly, started giving talks on it at Palmer Episcopal Church, and I had several degrees, and so I just sort of went off from there.
The voice you're listening to is that of John Bradshaw, joining us by telephone in Houston. Incidentally, he's going to be at the Regency at I-25 and 38th Avenue Thursday night, 7:30. The talk is called Creating Healthy Relationships. Friday, there's an all-day 9 o'clock workshop, Healing Our Father Wounds. Saturday and Sunday, there's a weekend workshop called Homecoming and Reckoning. Couple books out. One's called Championing Your Inner Child. Is that right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And
it's called Homecoming. The subtitle's Championing, Reclaiming and Championing the Inner Child.
And there's also a Saturday workshop. Now, if you want to attend any of those, long distance number is 1-800-556-5506. All right. Or locally 377-0789. And I have a couple pairs of tickets that we'll give away to some of you as the evening goes on here for the Thursday event. Michael, you wanted to jump in here?
Well, I was
Michael
just
Lindsay.
sort of thinking about the paradox that about what Mr. Bradshaw said about the fact that we weren't allowed to have feelings, especially anger or sadness or some of those others. And I was thinking about the people who wouldn't let us have those feelings often used anger and coercion as a method for not letting us have those feelings.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, we were being taught a kind of power that when we got to be big, we could have anger and sadness, but those that we had power over couldn't. I mean, I see it as very multi-generational, though, because they came out of systems that wouldn't let them have feelings or anger. And I see this whole patriarchal thing as one of the real severe social issues that we are now coming out of. And as we come out of it, it's real hard because we're like in between trapeze bars. We don't know where to go, and we don't have any language for what we need.
Tom?
Yeah, every time we're the loser, we learn how to be the winner. You know, so if we're the loser in a particular circumstance, when that circumstance comes around again, we just switch roles and we become the winner.
Let's go to the telephones, and Shelley in Aurora, you're on with Tom D., who's a 12-step expert, Michael Lindsay, the country's foremost expert in violence, and John Bradshaw's with us from Houston.
Well, first of all, I have to say I've got like 6.5 years of recovery.
Congratulations.
Well,
great.
Thank you. But my problem is, and it was just like I was driving home, I'm a lawyer, and I work in the Denver Tech Center, and I was kind of flipping the channels around and had come upon your program, and you were kind of like bad-mouthing this luncheon.
Yes. Let me tell John what's going on here, and so everyone knows. There is a woman's halfway house called the Lighthouse for alcoholic and drug-addicted women, and they're going to hold a benefit at the Diamond Steakhouse, which is a topless bar. And my what I've been saying about this all along is that it's kind of like having the wolf hold a benefit for the chickens, because you know, women are abused in those places. They're turned into sex addicts if they're not already when they get there. Alcoholism and drug addiction is the way of life, and it sends a terrible message to women. That's what I said. You want to get to everybody else's opinion on it?
I'd like to hear your opinion on it, ma'am.
Well, my opinion on it, as a practicing an attorney, we have bought 25 tickets. Because it's something that, like, half of our office is in recovery, but it's something that we really honestly believe in, and you're portraying it, I guess, basically as that by going down there, that these people are turning into alcoholics. It's like we're alcoholics basically, one way or the other.
You believe in recovery. You don't believe in recovery in a topless bar, right?
It's and I guess the thing that it's
answer the question.
Miss Quinn, who is
look, I asked her. I said, "Would you allow one of your women in your halfway house to go and get a job at the Diamond Cabaret?" And she said, "Sure." And I'm like, "All right, there's no point in having this conversation."
Yeah. Well, she's gone through a lot, and she's a very respectable person in in the community.
I'm trying to give them a way out. I said we will help support. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah.
Well,
but see, let me finish. It's I guess that the irony of it is that was the only place when I had talked to her, and I've talked to several of the other people that are supposedly involved with it, and they're supporting it 100%, and it's I guess it's sold out.
Well, I think it's kind of paradoxical that is the
Oh,
only
and the other
place
thing,
that would support it. But go ahead.
well, no, and then the other thing too is like we had two of my law partner's wives call down and say, "Oh God, it's going to be in a topless story."
Well, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. And you can look right in and see nude dancers.
No,
I mean, I have to tell you.
Because it was like I had one of our secretaries call down there, and there are going to be curtains all over the place.
Well, again, I think it's kind of paradoxical that the women's treatment center is getting support from that institution, if I could use that word loosely.
Well, but the fact of the matter is, it's like it's like I had to go through a halfway house like 6 years ago.
Hang on for a second,
Okay.
Lynn. John, you know what we're talking about? Are you still there?
I mean, I got what you said.
Yeah. This is a topless strip joint that's holding a benefit for a halfway house for women, and I protest it. I just say this is they should be doing it someplace else. I'm the kind of guy that just blows the covers on all this sort of stuff.
Well, I turned down the Playboy interview, much to my my editor's chagrin, simply because it's a magazine that objectifies women and that has played its part, in my opinion, in creating an awful lot of sexual addiction, and I would certainly probably tend to follow what you're feeling about that myself, is that anything that is continuing to victimize people and re-victimize them doesn't seem to be a healthy place for people who are trying to get recovered.
Okay, we're going to take a break. We will continue with John Bradshaw from Houston, Texas. Michael Lindsay is also here with us, and Tom D. I'm Jan Scott, and this is KNUS AM 710, the talk station in Denver.
Karen Michelle, I just got a very nice letter praising your handling of a private party at your Normandy restaurant.
We have the perfect facilities for private functions, large or small, luncheons and dinners, and the prices are reasonable.
I understand that holiday bookings are coming in, Karen. Isn't it a bit early for that?
Certainly not, Dad. For the prime dates, now is the time to book your Christmas parties in our beautiful private rooms.
The Normandy French restaurant for all your private functions, it's the right choice.
The Normandy in Chez Michel, East Colfax at Madison, 321-3311.
Ladies and gentlemen, are you sick of working for nothing and having nothing to show for the work that you did for nothing at the end of the week? Well, MTA Truck Driving School will teach you and your wife how to drive 18-wheelers in a few weeks and find you a job that pays you big bucks to boot. Call MTA 295-1115 or 1-800-795-1115. That's MTA Truck Driving School, sponsors of Thursday's 76 Truck Stop Show. And tell them Jan Scott sent you.
CPA, MD, JD, what do these designations have in common? They all indicate someone has special training and expertise in a given profession. However, there are two more you should look for when selecting life and health insurance, planning for retirement, or managing your wealth: CLU and CHFC. What do these designations mean to you? CLU indicates your insurance representative has been granted status as a chartered life underwriter, while CHFC marks a chartered financial consultant. Both designations tell you your representative has completed an intensive course of study through the American College, the oldest accredited institution in the financial services field. They also tell you this person is a professional with experience. The expertise and the ethical insight it takes to design a plan that fits your specific needs and is aimed at your goals. For more information, please call the Rocky Mountain chapter of Chartered Life Underwriters and Chartered Financial Consultants at 722-2801. That's 722-2801.
Tapes of tonight's show are $15, including shipping and handling. To order tonight's tape, call Jan's producer, Steve, right now at 935-7100. To talk with Jann Scott live on Talk Radio and be heard by thousands of people all over Colorado, call 935-7100 or long distance 1-800-533-0071. And now, back to Denver's late night talk guy, Jann Scott, here on KNUS.
20 minutes of 11 o'clock. In studio with us is Tom D., who developed the technological approach to the 12 steps, actually 4 through 9. It is the most phenomenal system of working the steps in the United States. He's the country's foremost expert on that particular process, if you know about it. He also has a book called the Step Group Method. All right. Michael Lindsay, the country's foremost expert on young male violence, is also here with us. Incidentally, Duffy's up here from New Mexico. Michael Lindsay lives here and runs something called the Third Path, which treats violent male offenders. And John Bradshaw is with us by telephone from Houston, Texas. And he's going to be at the Regency on Thursday night, and he has a bunch of workshops going on. Also, you can, if you want to go to his workshops this weekend, you can call 377-0789 and get tickets for that. And Michael, you wanted to say something to Shelley before we let her go. So Shelley, you're back on with us. Go ahead, Michael.
Hi, Shelley. I'm sorry we're so pressed for time tonight, but I would offer that maybe you have an interest in this program with this woman and you believe in her, and maybe you could help her find some other ways to do this. And I don't know that I can be of any assistance, but you can call me at 773-2616, and maybe we can continue this conversation on the phone, and I wish you guys luck, but I think they've made a mistake, and I wish you luck out there, though.
Well, I mean, I'm not involved with it in any way.
Well, I know. But
well, you are if you're.
Well, we bought the ticket.
And I think that's great because I think the women probably are underserved and need a lot of assistance, and they're not getting it.
Well, you know, and I guess, and when I had talked to Leslie earlier today, it was really interesting because, you know, she was a little upset with the article in Bill Hustead's column today.
We're going to have to let you go, Shelley, but I tell you, you know, I mean, here I am. I'm sitting on a funding committee for the Colorado Coalition for Domestic Violence. I see an awful lot of nasty stuff that goes on toward women, and you know, honestly, those strip joints are hellholes for women. And I just and I hope that you can, you know, I just hope that you can reconsider this and help turn them in another direction because it sends a really bad message to women. And being a woman yourself and an attorney, if you bought 25 tickets, maybe you can. I'm willing to find another restaurant. And KNUS will get behind this, okay? We'll find another restaurant to support this. But I think, anyways, I'm going to let you go here. John, a final comment from you on this particular situation?
Well, it's just, you know, I understand that there may be some things that I don't know about the details of what's going on. It's just, I just can't help but agree that any time that we're continuing to endorse something that is the problem, it's that problem of objectification, and I agree that a whole lot of sexual acting out goes on in those kind of places. I did it myself in my own acting out days. Not a really very healthy place.
John, this is Michael Lindsay. I had kind of an interesting question I'd like to bounce off you and hear what you've got to say about this. I understand families are systems. I clearly understand that and see that process in operation. What about situations where you have a person who, male or female, but you know, who is violent, who's aggressive, who's dangerous, who's terrorizing somebody? How does the fact that there are individuals in these families who are incredibly destructive, how does that get handled within the family system sort of perspective?
Well, I think that one of the ways it gets handled is the way I remember seeing this documentary on Kukinski, the killer who killed over 100 people, and he was talking about his dad beating him at random. You know, just his dad would come in and where he would never know when he was going to start hitting him. And that he early on, just what both of you were describing, he made the decision that the way that I'm never going to let anybody hit me is I'm going to become violent myself. I'm going to hit other people first. I mean, not everybody in the system adapts that way. Some people adapt by being the victim, and some people act it in by victimizing themselves. But I think that, that violence, witnessing violence, or having an offender for a dad or a mom, you either become an offender, you identify with the offender, or you become a victim offender, that is, you have victor-offender ambiguity, or you become a victim.
What do you think our society needs to do with offenders? Do you have some ideas about that?
Well, I was just thinking how much I admire what you're doing, the fact that you're committed to it, and the fact that you're kind of doing the dirty work, which is to deal with offenders. I think we should do more than have, DAs coming on saying that these people are hopeless and that they can never be helped. I don't know whether you've seen some of that along the way.
I see a real polarization occurring all the time with people who don't want to talk about families, people who only want to talk about accountability, people who want to talk about punishment, some people who won't talk about punishment. I see that polarization all the time.
Yeah, I mean, we've got some pretty clear evidence of our data about how offenders, can happen. I mean, how Gershon Kaufman talks about when you're victimized, you imprint that scene, and in that scene then is both the victim and the offender. I mean, I know that I have been an offender with women, not physically an offender, but I have been, because I was victimized by a surrogate spousing, and that I can act out that role of love 'em and leave 'em, of sending flowers and poetry and then breaking hearts. I consider, and then raging at the end of a relationship, I consider that offender behavior too. And you take it some more degrees and you get into beating people up or stalking people or murdering people. First of all, I think we need to all identify that there's violence within all of us. It's like, I remember at a talk one night asking how many people in there had wanted to murder somebody. And, Duffy, the hands sort of slowly started going up. But by the end, 80% of the people had their hands up. Mm-hmm. And I think that, what a lot of people want to do is just have you off in the corner with this isolated group of people called offenders, or have them on Oprah, or have them on a talk show where everyone can voyeuristically look at them and act like we don't have in us what they have in them.
I want to, did you want to say something, Tom? Go ahead.
Yeah, what I wanted really to say is what we have found is that basically there's and I really don't want to oversimplify this, but there's really 4 basic platforms that humans operate on: hate, greed, love, and generosity. And that for the most part, in our society, we become incredibly habituated to hate and greed. And that almost all of our behaviors come out of that. And that if we're ever going to recover from the hate and greed addiction, we're going to have to learn to apply love and generosity to the moments of our lives, because that's really the only thing that can overcome that. It's one thing to learn that, you are violent, that you're an offender. But there's almost nothing that can be done about that, in that sense. So in a sense, I can see why DAs say, well, yes, these people are hopeless. They're hopeless because we don't, as a culture, contribute to or nurture any viable alternative to that. You click on the TV, you don't learn how to be loving and generous. You go out in our society, you don't learn how to be loving and generous. All we operate out of is hate and greed.
Well, and the other piece of that is that there's a lot of covert forms of hate and greed, like the terrible moralism that I was brought up in as a child in the Catholic Church. And it wasn't just the Catholic Church doing it, but it was, some people are good and some people are bad and some people are saved and some people are not. And what you do with that kind of polarization is you teach people to dislike to the point of hating people who are not like them.
Well, I found in my own personal experience that the reason I hate is when I live my life inconsistent with what's in my heart. That really gives me all the fuel I need to hate. And that it starts with myself and then extends out to society.
It's interesting that you guys talk about hate and ideology because I just see the world slowly falling apart around one ideology pitted against another ideology, and I see it even in my profession because in the domestic violence community where I work, family systems people are looked askance at, and I go to family systems workshops and they look bad at me, and I mean it's like we've lost our capacity to join together toward any kind of reasonable goals based on some perception of who we are or aren't.
We will continue with John Bradshaw talking with us from Houston, Texas. Michael Lindsay in Denver. He's the country's foremost expert on male violence. Tom D is developed the technological approach to the fourth step, a system that works incredibly. And of course, John Bradshaw is going to be here Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. You can get tickets at 1-800-556-5506. And if you're in recovery and you've got family problems, alcoholic problems, or you're not in recovery especially, a good way to start is by attending one of his workshops. I'm Jan Scott, and this is KNUS.
Hi, this is Leona McCormick from Wheatridge Cyclery. Fall is in the air, and now's a great time to take advantage of 93 Trek bicycle closeout prices. Trek is introducing the new 94 bicycles and is eager to make room for these new models. So now is the time to save on the remaining 93 bicycles. Wheatridge Cyclery is the largest Trek dealer in Colorado, and you can be sure we have the best inventory around. More importantly, we are a family-owned and operated business that has been serving our customers since 1973. When my father, Eugene Kiefel, started this business 20 years ago, his focus was to help the customer find the bicycle to suit the cyclist's need and budget. And that's the way we still run our business. We want to offer excellent service and the best value on the Trek bicycle of your dreams. From the beginner cyclist to the efficient